We stand on the precipice of fundamental societal transformation, where soon, nobody knows when, but many, including me, believe it's within our lifetime, the collective intelligence of the human species begins to pale in comparison, by many orders of magnitude, to the general superintelligence in the AI systems we build and deploy at scale. This is both exciting and terrifying.
Is how we take some human feedback. The simplest version of this is show two outputs, ask which one is better than the other, which one the human raters prefer, and then feed that back into the model with reinforcement learning. And that process works remarkably well with, in my opinion, remarkably little data to make the model more useful. So RLHF is how we align the model to what humans want it to do.
So there's a giant language model that's trained on a giant data set to create this kind of background wisdom knowledge that's contained within the internet. And then somehow adding a little bit of human guidance on top of it through this process makes it seem so much more awesome.
Maybe just because it's much easier to use. It's much easier to get what you want. You get it right more often the first time, and ease of use matters a lot, even if the base capability was there before.
Into one organized black box that is human wisdom. What is that?
Human knowledge, let's say.
Human knowledge. It's a good difference. Is there a difference between knowledge? So there's facts and there's wisdom. And I feel like GPT-4 can be also full of wisdom. What's the leap from facts to wisdom?
You know, a funny thing about the way we're training these models is I suspect too much of the processing power, for lack of a better word, is going into using the model as a database instead of using the model as a reasoning engine.
Yeah.
The thing that's really amazing about this system is that it, for some definition of reasoning, and we could of course quibble about it, and there's plenty for which definitions this wouldn't be accurate, but for some definition, it can do some kind of reasoning. And, you know, maybe the scholars and the experts and the armchair quarterbacks on Twitter would say, no, it can't. You're misusing the word. You're, whatever. But I think most people who have used the system would say, okay, because we think it is important for the world to get access to this early, to shape the way it's going to be developed, to help us find the good things and the bad things. And every time we put out a new model, and we've just really felt this with GPT-4 this week, the collective intelligence and ability of the outside world helps us discover things we cannot imagine, we could have never done internally. And both great things that the model can do, new capabilities, and real weaknesses we have to fix. And there's no one set of human values, or there's no one set of right answers to human civilization. So I think what's going to have to happen is we will need to agree on, as a society, on very broad bounds. We'll only be able to agree on a very broad bounds of what these systems can do. And then within those, maybe different countries have different RLHF tunes. Certainly individual users have very different preferences. We launched this thing with GPT-4 called the system message, which is not RLHF, but is a way to let users have a good degree of steerability over what they want. And I think things like that will be important.
Can you describe system message and in general how you were able to make GPT-4 more steerable based on the interaction that the user can have with it, which is one of its big, really powerful things?
So the system message is a way to say, hey, model, please pretend like you, or please, hey, model, please pretend like you, or please only answer this message as if you were Shakespeare doing thing X, or please only respond with JSON no matter what, was one of the examples from our blog post. But you could also say any number of other things to that. And then we tune GPT-4 in a way to really treat the system message with a lot of authority. I'm sure there'll always, not always hopefully, but for a long time, there'll be more jailbreaks, and we'll keep sort of learning about those. But we develop, whatever you want to call it, the model in such a way to learn that it's supposed to really use that system message.
Breakdown. There is something
100%.
deeply, because it's trained on human data, there's, it feels like it's a way to learn about ourselves by interacting with it. Some of it, as the smarter and smarter it gets, the more it represents, the more it feels like another human in terms of the kind of way you would phrase a prompt to get the kind of thing you want back. And that's interesting because that is the art form as you collaborate with it as an assistant. This becomes more relevant for, now this is relevant everywhere, but it's also very relevant for programming, for example.
The first versions of these systems were sort of, one shot. You said what you wanted, it wrote some code, and that was it. Now you can have this back and forth dialogue where you can say, no, I meant this, or no, fix this bug, or no, do this. And then, of course, the next version is the system can debug more on its own and kind of try to like catch mistakes as it's making them. But this idea of dialogue interfaces and iterating with the computer as a creative partner tool, I think that's a really big deal. There's a little bit of sleight of hand sometimes when people talk about aligning an AI to human preferences and values. There's like a hidden asterisk, which is the values and preferences that I approve of.
Right.
And navigating that tension of who gets to decide what the real limits are and how do we build a technology that is going to have huge impact, be super powerful, and get the right balance between letting people have the system, the AI that is the AI they want, which will offend a lot of other people, and that's okay, but still draw the lines that we all agree have to be drawn somewhere. The level of the increase in quality of life that AI can deliver is extraordinary. We can make the world amazing, and we can make people's lives amazing. We can cure diseases. We can increase material wealth. We can like help people be happier, more fulfilled, all of these sorts of things. And then people are like, oh, well, no one is going to work. But people want status. People want drama. People want new things. People want to create. People want to like feel useful. People want to do all these things. And we're just going to find new and different ways to do them, even in a vastly better, like unimaginably good standard of living world. But, my personal beliefs, consciousness is something very strange is going on. Let's say that.
Do you think it's attached to the particular medium of the human brain? Do you think an AI can be conscious?
I'm certainly willing to believe that consciousness is somehow the fundamental substrate and we're all just in the dream or the simulation or whatever. Yeah. I think it's interesting how much sort of the Silicon Valley religion of the simulation has gotten close to like Brahman and how little space there is between them. But from these very different directions. So like maybe that's what's going on. But if it is like physical reality as we understand it and all of the rules of the game are what we think they are, then there's something, I still think it's something very strange. We know if like on Twitter we were mostly having like LLMs direct the whatever's flowing through that hive mind.
Yeah, on Twitter and then perhaps beyond.
And then as on Twitter, so everywhere else eventually.
Yeah, how would we know?
My statement is we wouldn't. And that's a real danger.
How do you prevent that danger?
I think there's a lot of things you can try. But at this point, it is a certainty. There are soon going to be a lot of capable open source LLMs with very few to no safety controls on them. And so you can try with regulatory approaches. You can try with using more powerful AIs to detect this stuff happening. I'd like us to start trying a lot of things very soon. How would companies? But already, I think people are, as they see the rate of progress, already people are grappling with what's at stake here. And I think the better angels are going to win out.
Can you elaborate on that? The better angels of individuals? The individuals within
and
the
companies. But, the incentives of capitalism to create and capture unlimited value, I'm a little afraid of. But again, no, I think no one wants to destroy the world. No one wakes up saying like, today I want to destroy the world. So we've got the Moloch problem. On the other hand, we've got people who are very aware of that. And I think a lot of healthy conversation about how can we collaborate to minimize some of these very scary downsides. I think people at OpenAI feel the weight of responsibility of what we're doing. And yeah, it would be nice if, like, you know, journalists were nicer to us and Twitter trolls gave us more benefit of the doubt. But like, I think we have a lot of resolve in what we're doing and why, and the importance of it. But I really would love, and I ask this like of a lot of people, not just if cameras are rolling, like any feedback you've got for how we can be doing better. We're in uncharted waters here. Talking to smart people is how we figure out what to do better. He was visibly very hurt by that and said, you know, those guys are heroes of mine and I sucks and I wish they would see how hard we're trying. I definitely grew up with Elon as a hero of mine. You know, despite him being a jerk on Twitter or whatever, I'm happy he exists in the world. But I wish he would do more to look at the hard work we're doing to get this stuff right.
A little bit more love. What do you admire in the name of love about Elon Musk?
I mean, so much, right? Like he has driven the world forward in important ways. I think we will get to electric vehicles much faster than we would have if he didn't exist. I think we'll get to space much faster than we would have if he didn't exist. And as a sort of like citizen of the world, I'm very appreciative of that. These systems will make a lot of jobs just go away. Every technological revolution does. They will enhance many jobs and make them much better, much more fun, much higher paid. And they'll create new jobs that are difficult for us to imagine, even if we're starting to see the first glimpses of them. But I heard someone last week talking about GPT-4 saying that, you know, man, the dignity of work is just such a huge deal. We've really got to worry. Like, even people who think they don't like their jobs, they really need them. It's really important to them and to society. And also, can you believe how awful it is that France is trying to raise the retirement age? And I think we as a society are confused about whether we want to work more or work less. And certainly about whether most people like their jobs and get value out of their jobs or not. Some people do. I love my job. I suspect you do too. We believe in a very high bar for the people on the team. We work hard, which, you know, you're not even like supposed to say anymore or something. We give a huge amount of trust and autonomy and authority to individual people. And we try to hold each other to very high standards. And, you know, there's a process which we can talk about, but it won't be that illuminating. I think it's those other things that make us able to ship at a high velocity. Like, most people in the company weren't really excited to work super hard and collaborate well on GPT-4 and thought other stuff was more important. There'd be very little I or anybody else could do to make it happen. But we spend a lot of time figuring out what to do, getting on the same page about why we're doing something, and then how to divide it up and all coordinate together.